Ever look at a flower and a plastic water bottle and like an X-ray and wonder what they could possibly have in common?
Yeah, it's not exactly obvious, is it?
Not at all. So get ready to find out because today's deep dive is all about uncovering those surprising connections between biology, chemistry, and physics.
Yeah, we're going to be hopping around a bit.
We are. We're talking plant reproduction, hydrocarbons, and even nuclear radiation. A little bit of everything to like boost your science IQ. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan. It's amazing how these seemingly totally separate topics, actually share these underlying principles
Right.
of energy transfer and interaction.
Yeah.
So by exploring those connections, you actually gain, I think, a much deeper appreciation for just how intricate and beautiful the natural world is.
Okay, so first up, plant reproduction. I think we all know like the birds and the bees story from like middle school,
Right.
but our sources really dive into some of the fascinating
There's
details.
more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah.
It all starts with pollination. So
Okay.
that's the transfer of pollen, which is those tiny grains
Yeah.
that carry the plant's, genetic material from one part of the flower to another.
Right.
It's basically like plant sperm finding its way to the plant egg.
Oh, okay. So that's where like the insects or the wind come in, right? Like a delivery service.
Exactly,
Yep.
100%. And plants have evolved some really, really clever ways to make sure that pollen gets delivered.
I bet.
So think about, um, you know, a rose,
Yeah.
those bright petals
Yeah.
and that like sweet fragrance. That's like a neon sign for bees
Right.
saying, come over here.
Come to me.
Exactly.
Whereas something like a plain looking grass, relying on the wind, doesn't need to bother with any of that showiness.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, once that pollen reaches its destination, the fertilized egg develops into a seed. But here's the thing. Just having a seed, it's not enough. It needs the right conditions to actually sprout. It's kind of like we need the right environment to thrive.
I see. So that's where germination comes in. Our notes mention water, oxygen, and temperature all kind of playing crucial roles.
Yeah, absolutely. So water, it softens the seed coat
Yeah.
and then kicks off these internal engines, so the enzymes that get things going. Oxygen is crucial for respiration, which provides energy for growth.
Hmm.
And then, of course, temperature. The temperature has to be just right.
Ah,
Not too hot, not too cold, like Goldilocks. That's why, just tossing seeds onto the ground doesn't always work. You need the right conditions for life to take root.
it's all about the right ingredients and the right environment.
Yeah.
Speaking of ingredients, how about we move on to hydrocarbons, those essential players in the world of chemistry.
Okay.
And don't worry, we're going to break it down. You definitely don't need a PhD to follow along.
No, not at all. Think of hydrocarbons as like the skeletons of a lot of organic molecules.
Mm.
They're the carbon and hydrogen chains that really form the basis of things like fuels, plastics, all sorts of things.
Okay.
Let's start with alkanes. These are the well-behaved ones.
Oh.
They mostly stick to themselves because their bonds are very, very stable.
Oh, so that's why we use them for fuel.
Exactly. Think of like methane, which is the
Yeah.
main component of natural gas, or propane.
Yeah.
These are things that we use every day, right?
Totally, yeah. To power our grills, heat our homes.
Exactly. Now, alkanes, they're a bit more lively. They got this double bond between carbons, which makes them much more eager to react with other things.
Our sources compare them to the life of the party, always ready to mingle.
I like that. Yeah, that's a great analogy, that mingling is what makes alkenes so versatile. For example, ethylene. It's a really simple alkene, but it plays a huge role in how fruits ripen.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. Or propene. That's the building block for polypropylene, which is a plastic you find in everything. Food containers, car parts, you name it. So even though we might not actually see them, alkenes are secretly shaping the world around us.
That is so cool. It's amazing how, like, just this small difference in their structure, that double bond can have such a big impact on what they can actually do. And speaking of big impacts, how about we shift gears over to our final topic, which is nuclear radiation.
Okay, sounds good.
It's a topic that, I think inspires both fascination and maybe like apprehension.
For good reason.
Yeah.
We're talking about energy being released from the very heart of an atom. And there are different flavors of this energy: alpha, beta, and gamma radiation.
Okay. Now, our notes mention this thing called a Geiger counter. Is that how we actually measure these different types of radiation?
Exactly. So a Geiger counter picks up on something that we call ionizing radiation.
Okay.
Now, what's fascinating is that this ability to knock electrons off atoms is what makes radiation potentially very harmful in high doses, but also incredibly useful. Think medical imaging or even treating cancer.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's all about finding ways to kind of harness that power safely.
100%. Now, each type of radiation actually interacts with matter differently. And understanding these differences is key. So alpha radiation, for example, it's like a heavy hitter.
Oh.
2 protons, 2 neutrons, a very strong positive charge.
Yeah.
It packs a real punch, but it can be stopped by something as thin as a sheet of paper.
Seriously?
Yeah, so basically a sheet of paper is like Superman's kryptonite for alpha particles.
I love that analogy. Okay, what about the other types?
Okay, so then we have beta radiation, lighter, faster, consisting of electrons. These can zip through a sheet of paper no problem, but might be stopped by something like a thin sheet of aluminum.
Okay, so a little bit stronger.
Exactly. And finally, we've got gamma radiation. Pure energy, the most penetrating of the 3. This one requires, thick lead or concrete to actually block it.
Oh, wow.
So-
It's like a spectrum of superpowers,
Yeah.
each with its own strength and weaknesses. Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask about something that sounds straight out of a comic book. Background radiation.
Yes.
What is that?
So even though it might sound ominous, it's simply the low level of radiation that's constantly present in our environment.
Really?
Yeah. Think cosmic rays raining down from space or, radioactive elements that are naturally found in rocks and soil. It's been a part of life on Earth since the very beginning, and our bodies are very well equipped to handle it.
It makes you realize how much is going on around us that we just never even notice.
Right.
From the intricate dance of plant reproduction to this invisible world of hydrocarbons and radiation. It's clear that even a quick dive into science can really uncover some amazing connections.
Absolutely. And the exciting part is we've only just scratched the surface.
Right.
Think about just the incredible diversity of plants and their pollination strategies, the vast applications of hydrocarbons beyond what we even talked about.
Yeah.
And then all of the research that's ongoing in terms of harnessing nuclear radiation for good. Like, the possibilities really are endless.
So much to ponder. You've given us a lot to think about, from the everyday wonders we often just overlook to, like, these cosmic mysteries that are still being unraveled.
It really makes you think, what other connections are waiting to be discovered right under our noses?
That is a great question to leave our listeners with. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, sometimes the most amazing discoveries start with a simple question.
100%.